Hey everyone, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com. Look what I got here on the bench. What is it? It's a Traxxas K5 Blazer in bright orange and white. How cool is that? This truck, I wanted to do, I'm not going to do an unboxing because we know what a box looks like. I mean, you've been to your hobby shop, you've seen it. Maybe your hobby shop's a little afraid to open it because it's a Traxxas, and a lot of people from the Scale crowd look at Traxxas and go, what are you doing here? But guys, take this one seriously. Oh man, should you ever. This thing is absolutely amazing. As you guys know, back on Mother's Day, I bought my wife a Bronco Traxxas TRX-4. She's been in love with it. And I wanted to do like an unboxing video, and I wanted to show you everything about it. But as I said, it is my wife's truck, and she won't let me touch it because she knows that I'll probably modify it in some way. And she says, hell no, that's for me to do. Do not touch my truck. So I actually had to borrow this one from Kevin at Skycraft in order to have a truck that I can even show you and basically kind of joygasm all over, because this thing is a really, really awesome rig right out of the box. So that's all this one is right out of the box, and I kind of want to show you a few things. So number one, let's nerd out about some of the really, really neat things about it. Like number one, the wheels. Dude, look at these things. These are like super, super awesome looking scale wheels. And of course the hubs are, I mean, you can take the hubs off, but what a neat wheel design. It's super old school, and I'm a big, big fan. The tires themselves, even from stock, we took these things out on the trail a whole bunch of times. These ones here are, what are they called here? The Traxxas Canyon Trail 1.9. These handle really, really well. What a great sidewall. My only concern, number one, they're glued on, so you can't take them off and then reuse the rim. And second, they're a little squishy. So, and you can hear that they're not sealed. So water gets in that, you're gonna rot your foams. But they are a bit squishy. The truck's not the lightest thing in the world, but it's also not super heavy. But as we know, factory foams do break down, and you're gonna start to run some flat spots. So that's a thing. The body itself is really, really well built. It's a nice thick Lexan, and from the factory, it looks super scale, which I dig. All of the accessories on here are hard plastic, the door handles, the mirrors, all the lights, the grill, come on, the grill, hard plastic, the bumpers, hard plastic. Really, really well built. I'm a big fan. I really, really like what they've done with this truck. And I mean, really what it comes down to is for the money, oh yeah, trailer hitch, everything. You know they've got some plans for this thing. Traxxas is really, really good at releasing things and then self-supporting them. So you know they've got some neat plans for this. There's toe spots, everything. It's a really good truck. Oh my God, really good truck. Again, Traxxas does a great job at self-supporting their own products, so you will expect to see, I mean, already you can get tracks for it. Already you can get lighting kits for it. If you look online on the Traxxas website, there's already a bunch of different colored accessories you can get. Links and hubs and stuff like that to suit whatever your taste is. So they're doing a really good job at doing that. A couple things to note on here that I thought were really neat as well. Your rock sliders, of course, but your body actually fits into the rock slider so that you don't have to worry about damaging that. Just make sure that it's lined up correctly and you're not gonna get any goofy sticks anywhere. Now also, tip it on its side here, looking underneath, it's a bit of a boat bottom, so you're less likely to get sticks all jammed up inside of it. A lot of areas to skid off of, which is also really, really good. And of course, you've got this giant open space in the back right here, which I know doesn't seem like anything really, really important, but what could you do with a giant open space like that? Well, some companies are selling adapters that you could do rear-mounted winches, so that's a thing. And then, of course, the front, you've got a space you can do a front-mounted winch. So I'm really impressed with kind of the forethought that they put into this truck. A lot of design, that's for sure. Traxxas has always been known as the fastest company in RC, and they've always supported a lot of different race programs and stuff like that. You wouldn't expect that they would come out of the gate with such a, I'm not gonna count like the old monster truck style crawler stuff that they had. This is their first real scale offering, and I'm super, super impressed with what they've done with it. With the body off it, you can see that this thing is pretty intense in some cases. They've done a great job at layout, at protection, at strength. Actually, this thing is very well cross-braced. This thing is very well built with its plastics. This thing is actually really tough, like a super tough truck. And they've also done a really great job at getting you ready and prepared for future adjustments or future additions to the truck. A few things of note. Okay, this is one thing. Battery compartment, super neat. So you can zip this up, you can spin it around, you can use taller batteries, you can use shorter batteries. So I can say throw this 2-cell in here, and I could spin it in such like this so that it holds that in nice and tight. Okay, cool, that's great. But what if my battery's a little bit taller, or what if I was using something like this 3-cell right here, which stands up a little bit taller? Well, then I could spin that around and I could give myself more height. Or I could spin it around this way and put the battery like this. I have different height options. So whether it's 23 mil tall or 26 mil tall, I can set it up different ways as to how I want it to be. Right now I'm gonna set it up like this, and ta-da, and click, it's in. And the battery release, super easy, just push that down and open it up. Super, 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 super easy. And in this case, because I'm using bullets, you can see that I've got my space on each side. Now we've got a few different things on here to discuss as well. First of all, it is a 21 turn, 550 can. These things are super inexpensive if you want to keep just replacing that motor itself. But this thing has a pile of space, like a huge amount of space for different motor systems that you could run. You could put something really, really big in there. And of course, they've got all the screws to pull the shrouds off. You can get at the gear mesh fairly easily. You can get at the wiring fairly easily. And they even have different areas to run the wires through so that they're not all willy-nilly flying all over the place. They actually are bolted in, or clipped in, I should say, which is also quite excellent. One of the things that they say is that you want to replace the servo right away. Well, guess what? It's super accessible and really easy to get to. So, ta-da! You've got that right there as well. That's easy. Of course, your receiver box is covered up, so you'd have to pop into that, but you can take care of that wiry mess anyway. Plugging it in. I run Deans, so I've just got a Traxxas to Deans, Traxxas to Traxxas to Deans connector. And of course, this thing is self-detecting as to what you're putting on. If you're gonna run a 3-cell or go and do a 2-cell, it can go back and forth. Right now, I've been running my wife's on a 2-cell, and it is plenty fast. Really fast. The reason why I'm running her on a 2-cell is because there's 6,000 mAh, and all of my smaller packs are 2,200. And this thing with all of its servos, because count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're gonna burn through the battery a little bit quicker than the trucks that my son and I are using. But anyway, turn it on, and there we go. So what am I looking at here? Well, of course, you've got your steering, and of course, you've got your throttle, but you also have servos for your 2-speed, so this one, for your 2-speed transmission, and you also have servos to lock your diff. So you see I can switch them. So, I mean, how neat is that, right? So that, I love this thing. What's the point of the different locking diffs? Well, I mean, if you lock the front and unlock the rear, it's gonna help you kind of almost like a, well, sort of in a way like a fake dig, to help you kind of pull and crawl around. And the back won't push as hard. If you open all 4 of them, you will get a tighter turning radius. But again, if on the rocks and stuff like that, if one wheel comes up, it'll just spin everything to that wheel. And if you lock them all, it runs like the traditional crawler that most of us are used to. A couple other things of note. Number one, some people use this as a battery plate because you can actually put a battery up here if you wanted to. Some people will use that as a battery plate to give them more weight up on the front. I will be using it as a winch plate. I've ordered a different piece to go in here so I can put a winch in, and I've ordered, again, this is for my wife's kit, ordered the winch section here, and I've ordered a bumper that has a fairlead to the front so I can hide it all in behind. I'm looking forward to doing that. I think it'll be pretty neat. Of course, you do have these. These are all holes in the fenders to put in rock lights. Traxxas has their own lighting systems that are just direct plug-in to everything that you have here. So that's kind of one of the things that I really dug. So we got that for my wife. So she'll have rock lights for when we go on a night run. Also very adjustable because they don't know what body you're going to put on it. You have your different heights here. You have your different heights here. You also have in the rear different locations to put your shocks so that you can, well, because you can actually do different wheelbases. And if I flip this bad boy over, all metal links. And of course, depending on the length of your link and stuff like that, you can adjust the back axle. You can adjust pretty much everything on this truck. and it's modular too, right? So a couple screws here, ooh, this comes off, that comes off, stuff like that. Now, they do have, from the factory, which are pretty neat, portals, which I think are kind of cool. I've run portals before on different trucks, and I was very unsuccessful with them, but that's also because I was running an axle that was not traditionally meant to be portals, but also an axle that had maybe done its service and maybe was a little bit flimsy and probably had no place in this world trying to run something that was going to add that much torque to the axle itself. But the way that I can see this thing is all put together, it's built to be this forever and built to stand up against that forever. So that's pretty awesome. Now, a couple word of warning, when you're running over the small sticks and stuff like that, please be mindful that there are little tiny lines running around. You don't want to catch a stick and just think that you're going to just ram through it, because you might be tugging on one of these little lines, which does connect to your servos for your differentials. Now, what's really neat is when you open and close your diffs, basically what you're doing is inside, you're just moving something that's going to lock into a gear. What you'll notice is if you run one of these things, as you start to open and close your diffs, you might flick it and it won't lock right away. It's because it's just trying to get into that spot. Same with the unlock. It doesn't necessarily unlock instantly until it can kind of free up if you've got it under too much load. It's like the idea that it's putting friction against the gear and they're holding each other, but then as soon as it lets off, it'll go and then it'll spin freely. So that's kind of pretty neat as well. If you can see here, open diffs. See how one tire is solid, the other one will open. It's still gonna push, it's still a 50-50, so it's still gonna split to the front and the back. And then if I switch it to the middle, it will lock the front. So I can spin the rear, one rear, so it'll cut loose and then both the fronts will spin. But the fronts, no, they're both spinning. I can't stop that, but of course one of the rears will stay. And if I flick it to the front, everything is locked. This is what your traditional, maybe like an axial kit or something like that would be set up as. So again, open rear is the center position. Back towards you is open front, open rear. See how that works? And then all the way forward, you're locked. You're not going anywhere. This is also something that I love to note, because you'll notice a lot of trucks are doing this these days. Center hub in the rear, which is normal, and offset hub in the front, which is excellent. I love to see that, because that's kind of how these older trucks were. So I used to have an F-150 back in the day. This one here, of course, as we said, is the Blazer, but I had a 1979 F-150, and that's how my truck was, which is completely badass. So I'm a big fan. I do love that, like stuff like the new Vanquish trucks and stuff like that are all coming with the offset axle, my Trailfinder 2, things like that. They don't always have to be the same axle for the front and the rear like the axial stuff has been doing for so many years. Now you can switch it up. But I mean, I guess for parts interchangeability and custom support, you can do whatever you want. But one of the things that I really appreciate with what Traxxas has done, and they've done this forever with all of their trucks, is they try to lead the way on their aftermarket support. I guess after you open the box for the first time support, because of course they're going to offer you everything past that. So again, self adjustable. You do have a little line here because that's what you're going to hook your power outlet or your power block up to do all your lights. And the body itself, actually, let me grab that. This again is to talk about the lights. Set this off to the side, right? Very, very good Lexan on here. Of course, you have your accessories and stuff like that already on it when you get it from the factory. If you want to buy this body on your own and then get all of the extra stuff, things get costly real quick. But, I mean, it was funny because I actually priced out the idea of getting my wife a new chassis and then the body because she really wanted the body, and it turned out to be cheaper just to buy the truck. But you can see all this stuff here, right? These are all in place, plugs to pull out because you've got lights that are going to go in there. In the sides, these pull out completely because you can see the light buckets are there. They'll get replaced. Blinkers, lights, headlights, taillights, and Traxxas sells the kit that just directly fits in this truck. When you get the Bronco kit, it's made specifically for the front blinkers and the headlights. With the Blazer kit, you get a kit for that as well. And everything is made to fit exactly in that body, including some wire retainers and stuff like that, so that's just not a mess of wires on the inside. I'm actually really impressed with what they did with that. The bodies are in great shape. I'm really, really a big fan of them. And I've noticed as well, like say for example, with my wife's Bronco body, the way it's got that color scheme going on the side of it, there's actually some companies out there that are starting to offer custom colors. So you can get it in the one that's like just red and black, or you can get the one that's like yellow, red, black. But she found one online where you can get like the big swoop and it's purple and it looks really good. So that's kind of something that we're considering in the future. So yeah, who knows? Maybe that'll be it. All right, so to wrap it up, got everything all pinned back together again. Let's talk real quick about the radio itself. Now, it's not that it's super complex, and if you've run any of the drag stuff or anything like that, you've probably seen a few of these things on here, or even some of the older short course stuff. You, of course, your on and off switch down at the bottom. This is your switch for your transmission, your low gear and your high gear. You do have your trim settings, but this is actually like a multi-dial, so trim settings, expo, endpoint, stuff like that, all done through a series of like buttons and stuff up here, and the lights will blink. Your 50-50 and your 70-30, which see how it moves the trigger? So basically what it does is that when you reassess it, so now this pull to here, you can more finely tune your throttle stuff. I would actually use that for scale, but I still keep it on the 50-50. So you're this way and you're this way. You have to set your calibrate your ESC when you do it. Otherwise, you do that and you wonder why your truck's backing up. And of course, the switch up here does your differentials. The wheel for me is quite small. I'll usually tear this off and put a bigger wheel on there. I like to have a little bit more adjustment. If I could, I'd probably put like a giant scale wheel on there. But I mean, on my other radio, I've got like a drift wheel with a little bit more foam added to it. But that's just my preference. Of course, you do have your batteries, just some AA's on the bottom down there. And that's really about it. It's a very, very basic 2.4 radio, but with this truck, that's really all that you need. Even when I put a winch on my wife's truck, we'll be using a wireless winch control, so we don't have to have anything more than just her stock radio. That's all we're really going to use for hers. Lights and stuff like that we'll have installed on a switch somehow, just kind of flicked into the body. I don't really know how we'll do that yet, but the body lights they'll come on their own, and then the rock lights will be on a separate switch, so we'll get that all worked out for her. But that's it, guys. I wanted you to see this thing. I want you to not count this truck out. I've wheeled it very briefly. My wife has wheeled it excessively, and she absolutely loves the truck. She has driven my SCX-10s, my 10 and my 10-2. She has driven my Trailfinder 2, and she keeps going back to the Traxxas. She says that it's just the right amount of challenge and just the right amount of awesome to get it done. And I've been to G6s before where a whole bunch of SCX-10s and custom-built kits and RC4WD kits would struggle with certain obstacles, and then the guy with the Traxxas pulls up and it's like, here, hold my beer, and he's gone. And then we're still staring at going, what the hell, man? Like, huh? And then we have to figure it out. But what a great truck. So guys, don't sleep on this thing. Consider it. If you've got somebody on the trail who has one, maybe take a moment to wheel on it, because even from the box, this thing performs outstanding. And then you can only go up from there with doing any type of accessories or modifications that you think will more personalize the rig for you. So what a great setup. I'd love to one day, after we burn out the Traxxas stuff in my wife's kit, I would love to maybe put a Tekin system in it and see what happens. We are going to redo the servo because people do talk about how the servo struggles, and it's the best thing in my life is to make sure that my wife never struggles with it, or else she just throws it up in the air and says, fix it. I shouldn't say that. She actually insists on fixing all her own truck stuff, which is pretty important for me. That means I get to buy all new stuff when she wants to upgrade. But guys, that's it. I'll cut this one done. Make sure you click on the like, subscribe, comment below if you've had a chance to wheel this truck yet. Let me know what your thoughts are. And of course, share this throughout your community, because this thing is a major contender and people need to know that. But guys, thank you very much for watching. Have yourself a great night.